The psychedelic revolution is here. If you want to integrate your visionary experiences into your purpose, get clear on your entrepreneurial path, and help people while you do what you love, then this podcast is for you. Welcome to The Psychedelic Entrepreneur, Medicine for These Times. I'm your host, Beth Weinstein. I'm a spiritual business coach, 3-time entrepreneur, and a lifelong student of psychedelics and sacred plant medicines. You carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times. This podcast will help you to share your medicine so you can create transformation in the world. Listen in on conversations with psychedelic leaders, changemakers, and conscious entrepreneurs who are living proof that a better world is possible when you follow your heart and live in alignment with your soul. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Medicine for These Times. I am so honored to have Jyoti Ma here with us today. Hi, Jyoti. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for the invitation. I'm quite honored.
It's such an honor to have you. Wow. A few years ago, I just had this dream of interviewing lots of elders out there in the community that have such an important voice. And, I've been wanting to interview you for a few years and just been kind of shy and nervous. And then I think we were on a summit together. I've been on a couple summits in the last year, and I was like, you know what? Your voice is too important to not be heard at this time. So I'm thank you for your time to come on and share your wisdom right now. It's so important.
And thank you for your good work, because it is quite a moment in prophecy and the era as human beings that we're all confronted with right now and making big choices about. So what I know about the work you're doing, it's seeding things in a really beautiful way out there. So let's take time and water it.
Yes, plant the seed. I use that analogy all the time. That's all we can do is really, plant our seeds, tend to them, do the prayer, But let's hear a little bit, for those that don't know about you, what is your role right here now on Earth? And I'm curious, what was your history that brought you here? I'm always curious about, when you were a little kid, did you imagine this would be your life? Did you ever have a job at some corporation, pushing papers? No,
well, I guess as I hold your question, the first thing that comes back to me is I think sometimes our destiny paths reveal themselves at birth, but we really don't understand or see them till much later on, and that was the way with me. And so I was born in Rapid City, South Dakota, in the Black Hills, and that's the sacred site of the Oglala Sioux, the Sioux Nation, and I would work with them for some time, many decades actually, trying to return the Black Hills back to the Great Sioux Nation. And that ended up being a life work, sacred territory globally. And so my mother put my feet there in this holy land of the Black Hills, which they call it, when it's called in English, is the heart of everything that is. I would be 51 years old or so when my grandpa Eugene Black Bear, who really found myself and our community and initiated us and into many ways of nature's law and right protocol for this earth, this creation. I would be brought there to Bear Butte, which is a holy mountain there, where my husband and I and my dear sister Darlene Hunter, who has walked with us through all the development of things that have unfolded in these last 4 decades, through our community work and our global work, we would sit up at Bear Butte for 4 days and 4 nights with no food, no water. We were fasting for 4 years that way, is how he qualified us to be able to pass some of his old medicine ways to us, for us to care for, to not mix, not change, but to hold with a line unbroken back to the original times. And then I would come up because our community helped to call in the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers that we opened up in New York in 2004, and we thought it was going to be for one time. And then the grandmothers decided they wanted to become the International Council of 13 Indigenous Grandmothers, and they wanted us to walk with them so they could start to see how they wanted to organize themselves. So we were with them for almost a decade, helping to raise their money and organizing different events. And all the grandmothers brought us to each of their countries so we could meet their culture, their land, their peoples, their language. And that was quite an amazing journey around the planet. And it taught us how to hold protocol, for each line has its own protocol, and how to hold that in a way so that when we entered their territories, that we would be entering it in a way that honored and respected the protocol of that land and its people, its original caretakers of that land. It also taught us, as the grandmothers coming from so many different lines of prayer and ways, it taught us about how to embrace our diversity out of regard and respect for one another, and to walk in peace, honoring this Mother Earth. And it really opened a platform for original voices to come forward. So Grandmother Beatrice, Long Visitor Holy Dance, and Rita, long distance holy dance, they would hold a gathering together at a Sundance there in the Black Hills, and so that would be the next time. And then Spirit asked me to hold and help to organize the Unity Concert, which we did for 4 years, and that was really to bring Native and non-Native people on stage with music and poetry and leaders speaking truth about how important it was to care for our sacred sites around the planet, because they're like Mother Earth's acupuncture points, is what I like to say. And you can imagine, over all these years of colonization, those points things have been sat on them, they've been fenced off, so the original people who have the ceremony that would keep them alive and therefore Mother Earth more healthy, they've been blocked from getting on. And so that concert became very successful, and it was full of inspiration. We started calling ourselves the Unity Community. And so those 4 places were where my feet were being put down in a way to follow this destiny path that Creator has me on. When I look back at my young adult self and some of the places that I was brought, for instance, in Texas, I would come to run institutions for juvenile delinquents, and I would be brought into one that was in full riots. And I think at the time they really sent me there because they really didn't want women in those positions, but they thought I would fall down. There had been 5 other men superintendents before that were brought in there. It was a time when plea bargaining was going on, and so these institutions used to house orphans. And then all of a sudden they were plea bargaining, and so you had children that were creating very violent crimes, and those that were runaway children, and those that had psychiatric issues that were getting placed into the juvenile system. And so the mother would come, and she would really start to land something in brought me a program one night and told me this is how it needed to go and unfold. And it really, I just said to the kids, this is really your home. Do you want it to be in chaos, or do you want to make it something different? It's up to you. And in the end, they did that, and it was quite remarkable what they did and the choices they made over a couple of years. But then the state took it and passed it on to mental health, and that created, they broke down everything good that the children had seeded. And that broke my heart, and that brought me to the Jung Institute so that I could, following the same line, the same prayer. I've never gone looking, I never had an aspiration driving my life. And when I really think all the time earlier, before my community of Kayamari got started, and we were together for many years before we got the land that we were to caretake. We got that land in 1995, and at that moment, I had gone through a 13-year Kundalini awakening process that really was not easy, and brought me to India so I could sit with my teacher, Dhyan Yogi, who was a Kundalini Mahayoga master, and he would help me know how to navigate this process and integrate it, open to it. And no sooner had that all happened than the community came along. And when I look back, I know that one of the medicines she handed me was community, because we've got to come back to a community that is really based on mother law. And so when we came up our mountaintop, we were a lot of innocence. There was a vision driving us. It really was amazing. We were all caught by it. It was like an electricity that unleashed itself. Many came, didn't it, and joined and sent funds without even seeing the land. It was the vision that was helping us remember ourselves. And then up our 14-mile logger road would come the elders that would help us learn how to walk following mother law, how to walk and embody original principle of reciprocity, collaboration, heart, unity. All life is sacred. And in 1998, we were in ceremony, and in that ceremony, the mother came in a strong, strong way. And she said to me, I'm going to hand you one of my most sacred baskets, and in that basket are some of my most treasured jewels. These jewels represent lines of prayer that go back to the original time. Do not mix them. Do not change them. Protect and keep them safe. Walk them through the doorway of the millennia. I have something we're going to do. Now, we didn't understand that. But that's when these elders started finding their way up this 14-mile logger road and started to teach us about each of those lines in the basket. And what I came to understand, too, over the years, because it was almost a decade of this kind of initiation and training that went on, what I came to understand over the years, there were some within our community that were living on this mountaintop in the Sierras, about an hour away from Yosemite, and some of the people in our community would be called to dive deeply into one of those medicine lines to really serve it. Others would be what I call the basket holders. They were the ones that would be initiated by each of the lines so that we would understand the protocol and how to care for that medicine line. But we were carrying the basket. We needed to know how to keep those lines, protected and cared for, and not mixing or changing them, because we had been handed a responsibility. And it was not an easy task, because back in those early years, it was a big controversy for us to be sitting with so many different medicine lines. But that's what she wanted, our great lady. That's what she wanted. And so we knew when we came together that we just knew we wanted to step out of the box of throwaway society. When my car gets old, I throw it away, or my relationship gets old, I throw it away. I mean, all of the above, we just throw them away and get something new, We wanted to commit ourselves to longevity. We committed ourselves to, when we knew riding a boat on the river of life, that there would be times when there was white water. It's just the way life is. And in those moments, we were committing to staying in the boat, to riding the water, and getting to the next part where it was smoother. But we weren't going to jump out. We were going to ride it. And now this is almost 40 years later. And we are all getting old and gray. I'm starting my 78th year walk around the sun. So and my kids that were born in my bed there have finished college and are out in the world doing amazing, amazing things. So it was a great teaching. This just one turn to longevity, first of all, really changed something. And we restored a way of life that was, all life was sacred. Our children were raised with that kind of nature and intelligence of nature surrounding them and growing them with these principles. So that was an amazing, amazing teaching all by itself. When we got through the doorway of the millennium, well, in 2001, when 9/11 happened, then all the things we had done to set up the community and protect it and care for this basket. One of my sons came and said, "Mom, you've really got to set up a church." And I was like, "Oh, do you think we're mature enough to take on the shadow of the church? We have to be really conscious, and we have to reach into our maturity so we won't get caught by these things." Mm-hmm. And as time has unfolded in these last years, I've come to really understand that what we were beginning to do was to decolonize the patterns and habits that we have been fed over generations and lifetimes that put us to sleep and cut our connection with nature herself. And so in those early years, we were really restoring that connection and relationship with Mother and with the divine. We were coming to remember ourselves, and she brought us tools so we would learn how to wake ourselves. We started the Center for Sacred Studies during that moment when 9/11 occurred, and we moved ourselves into a church status in order to be able to protect earth-based ways of life and prayer. So we would continue to walk in the ways that we were being taught and were remembering, and that our children's children would do so, which is what's happening now. Because we have, we've had in some of my trainings, we've had up to 4 generations of a family in the trainings and coming into this. So all of that was done not because we had an aspiration. It was done because she had a plan. And we were walking that plan. We were taught how to stay in present moment. We were taught how to develop the witness within so it could watch when our minds jumped out of the present moment and ran forward and usually gathered fear. And we could touch our hearts and we would say, update, and we'd come back to the heart of the moment, of the present moment, or when our minds jump behind us, it'd bring regret. So we choose again this update, this heart way, this intelligence of the heart, where love resides and is the strongest medicine amongst us all, So these were some of the ways that my path unfolded. And then once we got through the millennia, that's when we would start really in the community, people were starting to gather these messages. And then in this medicine bowl that we had been passed began to call for the grandmothers. And so how in the world I was like, but how am I to know which grandmothers you want? And so she just always said to me, the seed of it all is about relations. Daughter, if you will start there, everything else will always unfold naturally. And I found that to be a truth. So I wrote to elders across our community. Now, our community at this time, as we sit right now, we have our community here in California. We have my dear Bethany Yarrow, who has the waterfall house that's on the upper east of New York, east side of New York. where you knock at the gate, that entry place, the natives say across Turtle Island, that's the real door of entry when you want to come into Turtle Island. If you're coming in to do something significant with the other elders and other nations that way, you should always come in through protocol there. We have a community that just turned 26 years old outside of Prague. And for 22 years, we had a home in the Brazilian Amazon. I loved the jungle, and she's where we went to wake ourselves, clean ourselves, and firm ourselves, huh? So this was the footprint of our community of Kayamari. And as we met together in upstate New York, with the grandmothers at the Dalai Lama's Medicine Buddha Retreat Center. And as I said, they decided to become a council, and that we walked with them a decade, helping to raise money and organize their events. And a couple of years before that work was complete and they needed to fly on, and she gave us the next seed, which was the fountain. And so the fountain, which the Mamos out of Colombia, they call it the fountain for natural order of our existence. And the fountain is now the instrument within the basket that she's given us to carry out global initiatives that will help this Mother Earth and protect our original peoples and original cultures and language. And so that's kind of how the path unfolded. And it wasn't about a thinking that I had. The only, I guess, thing that lives in me still is that deep resonance with the divine. And in my later years, the Mother herself has been the one that lives in me. And I try to be her arms and legs and carry forth what she gives us in this great plan of this prophetic life moment that we're all standing in together. And I like to say the prophecy has prepared us, and the prophecy is instructing us now. And so I'm grateful. I'm grateful for this level of interaction. I'm humbled by it every day, because she brings us into not some easy task, for sure. The path has got a lot of fire walks, where you just have to have the courage and walk through it and go through the cleansing and wake yourself further. And we're going to see more of that in these years ahead, which in a minute, if you want, I can share some of that.
Please. Yeah, it's I say this almost daily. It's such a blessing to be alive at this very potent time. It's also I just think I'm very grateful for my tools, for my path, for my connection to spirit. But there's a lot of people out there that don't have it, and that's where I don't even know what that could be like. And I pray that more people find this connection. And there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of, I would say the media thrives on fear. Fear seems to make people money. So there's just more of it because it gets people clicking on things and buying things. And, seems to be the root of what's happening. And the global is a system that's not serving the earth and, her inhabitants. But, what I would love to hear what you were going to say about the prophecy. And I also would love to know, what message do you have for just kind of the regular person who's out there trying to just walk a path of purpose and service and, but also feels kind of what can I do? What is my role? And a lot of people feel that kind of helplessness almost I have no power.
Oh, but that is a falsehood that needs to fall down, because every single one of us, my elders say, we come from the stars. So we're made of light. And I was just watching something on a webinar that I'm a part of this morning, where this amazing man, Zach Bush, was talking about how he's into the study of cells. and how water is such a, light and water are such a significant part of the elements that drive light. And so with the light and the water in each of our cells, they have to crystallize. And when they crystallize, the light is quite bright in us. So we're literally a part of this creation. We're not over it. It has an intelligence inherent in it that is so amazing and humbles one every time you sit with it and really deeply, deeply listen. Many would say that we put our skin on to come again, to help in the great turning. That many of us that are waking to this moment of service have done it before. You see, this is her 6th extinction. So she's done this 5 times before. So I like to say to people, it's important that we step out of blaming and judging and shaming and pointing fingers, because we're just at the end of a cycle. This is what an ending looks like. It's not about things going wrong. It's just about something's coming to end. And as it does, the end shouts louder. But so does the light of that which is pushing through into this, what they call the new dawn. There is prophecy around this planet that has been carried by most spiritual lines that talk about this moment we're in. The Eagle Condor prophecy is the one I have walked with decades. I didn't go looking for it. Our community found ourselves in it and in service to it. And it has continued to wake us and instruct us. I was brought down with a small group of indigenous elders to meet in 2013 with the Kagaba Nation. Most other people might know them by Kogi, but they prefer now to be the Kagaba, called the Kagaba. And the fountain, when it came along, I caught a vision for it, and I went with my dear sister Loretta Afraid-A-Bear Cook, who's Oglala Sioux, and we've been working for decades with the Black Hills to return them to the Great Sioux Nation. So I called her and I said, "Sis, this is what I'm getting, and I'm told to be good if you go with me. So will you go?" And so she said, "Absolutely." And Bethany Yarrow went as to help us translate, a couple of other people. And we had met one of the sagas, Saga Carmen. And I had told her about the nudging of spirit towards opening this fountain, this economic model. And I had a lot of self-doubts and I resistance. I would just say, "Hey, Mom, I'm a woman of prayer. I can pray, but I'm not an economist." I mean, I wasn't sure I had heard correctly. So when the vision got more clear and more active, we went down there and Saga Carmen had called representatives from all the 4 original people of Colombia. The original people are called our older brother. And if you haven't heard of them, you can learn more about them by going to see a film called Aluna, A-L-U-N-A. I think it's on Netflix and YouTube. It was made probably 30 years ago now, because the older brothers were living high up in the La Sierra Nevada of Colombia and had not been touched by the West. And the earth was telling them that they needed to come down because their younger brother was getting lost and they needed to help. So at great sacrifice, that's what they did. So we met there in Colombia with representatives from these 4 original people. And at this point, we've worked with the Wiwa, the Arawaka, and the Kagaba. And in the last years, particularly with the Kagaba on some initiatives that I can share with you. And for those that don't know, the male leaders, spiritual leaders, are called the Mamos, and the females are the Sagas. And they are said that when they're caught at birth, they're seeing that there's a seed within this individual, this human, that can fully open itself completely And so when they're caught at birth and have that seed, they're then taken into the caves, and they do not see the light of day until they're 9 years old. Then they come out and they go through a set of exams to see if that seed is fully blossomed and fully opened. And if not, they go back into the caves until they're 18. And I've studied with some that were in there for 24 years, 25 years. You can imagine the consciousness that these individuals carry when they've been raised in the womb of this great mother. And she's transmitted her protocol of this creation in very strong and clear ways. And so we met with them. I shared this vision. We were with them for many days. They took us up into the mountains. They continued their consultation. And at the end, they said, "Yes, Jyoti, it's time for the fountain, for natural order to begin. And we want to sit here with you." So from that point on, we would go to the mamos who go into consultation. They completely absorbed in that source once again, and they receive instruction. They would bring the instruction to us. We would walk it out. Once it was complete, we would hold ceremony of gratitude for all we'd learned, and then we go back to the next set of instruction. And that instruction is what built the structure of what we now call the fountain. And that instrument is now poised in this moment of prophecy in helping to restore a 9-part broken body that they now call the golden body. We've landed 4 of the 9 land trusts. When this body is completely restored, it's going to start vibrating so that that healing will be sent to all the sacred territories globally. And with the 4th land trust, well, I'll just say this. They started telling us which each land trust was a part of this body. So the first land trust was the brain, the memory. The second was the ear, the sound. The third was the eye, light. And the 4th, which we'll be completing in this November, is the mouth, the golden tongue. So that vibration of the golden body is going to begin now, which is really significant. They also prepared for 4 years 8 staff that they would then bring back and would hand to 8 elders in different nations globally. And right now those staff are working because for the last several generations, youth were not taken to the caves. But now, in this critical moment where this transmission of ancient old wisdom needs to be continued on into this next new dawn, then they've just selected 10 children, boy and a girl, and 5 couples. Each will commit to this mission for life, and then are being prepared now to go back into the caves for 17 years. So these are kind of, I mention these because this is what Mother Earth is doing right now with many of her original people around this planet. She's sending them instruction for them to hold ceremony and to do different things that will aid her in her big movement. Because when I was in India, I'd go into sacred ashrams and places like that, and they'd have this clock on the wall. And so from 12 to 1 was 2,500 years, and from 1 to 2 was another 2,500 years. And so it would go all the way around the clock for 26,000 years. And that very last sliver in India, they call the Kali Yuga. Now, that means that this cycle, this ending cycle that we've been speaking about, we finished this 26,000 year turn, and we're about to open to the next 26,000 years, which will be dedicated to unity. And grandmother Rita Blumenstein, who was Yupik, she's gone on to the ancestors, but she was an amazing woman. And Yupik lived up in the cold country of Alaska. And she would say, bring teachings and things that her grandmother had taught her. And I'll just give you one example that when we started in that first meeting in New York, in upstate New York, for the grandmothers, Grandmother Rita came and she said, when I was 9 years old, my grandmother came to me and she said, when you get old and gray like me, you're going to be asked to sit on a council of 13 grandmothers. And so I have made bundles. Each of those bundles has a white eagle feather and a sacred stone. So when that moment comes, you hand out these bundles to each of the grandmothers. Take one for yourself and sit down and know my hands are on you. And the time we've been talking about and preparing for has begun. Oh, that was in 2004. Now that's when you also know when you're walking a path like this, your divinity path, that's when you catch things and then moments like this occur and it affirms for you that you have listened correctly. You have followed that instruction in a good way. Because her grandmother told her there would be a council of 13 grandmothers. When she was 9 years old, she was 73, I think, or in her early 70s when she shared this story with us in 2004. Her grandmother also said that in the beginning times, the birds there, they were in their territory, were all white. And that as the mother began to awaken her being, she would have to move up through the chakras. And these first 3 chakras, the birds would start to turn black. And we would be learning about our humanness, about human instinct for survival. And there would come a time when we finally reached that 3rd chakra, that one of power, and we were going to take the great leap. The great ascension would be upon us because now she was going to open and live in her heart, and the human species would be bringing to that then. And when that moment happened, the birds would start to turn white again, and they have. And a couple of years ago, if you remember, there were white species from many species offered up a white line, the white buffalo, the white whale, the white deer. So that let us know that what the prophecy had told us was letting us know, now the time is upon you. Now the Eagle Condor, when they said in 2013, when I went down there with this small group of people, they opened up another part of this prophecy. They said that we were entering the great 13-year cleanse. Now you go back at 2013 and you look at where we are. This is the last year of the great cleanse. Look what we went through for this cleansing moment. Mm-hmm. For this is the moment, they say, that the ending will fall into the beginning in 2026. And that it's important to watch the ending as it falls, because that will inform us. But we must stay focused on that which is breaking through, and that which is breaking through is carried by those individuals and organizations and movements that are walking with original principle. So right now, last year, as this year opened, this last year of the Great Cleanse, I was in meditation. The mother came and gave me the instruction for the year. It really helped me. She said, remember to watch the ending as it falls so you stay informed, so you can make good, strategic, mindful steps, bringing the light of the new dawn through this year of the mind, M-I-N-D field. The mind field. She said you must hold ultimate paradox so that you will see the opposites, but you must not choose one or the other. You must hold the paradox, for in that a friction of fire is going to the earth's soul for the imprint of this next step of our authenticity together. So here we are in this moment of great choice. There was a poem or something somebody read to me or sent to me. I wish I could remember the author, so I'm so sorry, because it touched me and I still want to push it out there because it was so. It said, was talking a little boy or little girl talking to their grandparents. What did you do when you knew? And I thought, wow, well, I'm a storyteller. Stories come and gather, and that I share these stories as a way of saying where we're standing in the moment, So we're all poised in a new story, that the grandmother that dreamed this creation is dreaming us now into the next part of this Earth Mother story. We're in a big moment of choice, a moment when we have to look in the mirror and embrace the truth we see there, so that we can open ourselves and our hearts completely, so we can still our mind, and so we can walk with more loving care and respect for one another to a returning moment, to that place where we started, but now we come back out of choice, and we will arrive with an awareness of how to care for this mother through the protocol and the right relation that we align with her. She sent out a message called the Mother's Message almost 2 years ago this December. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but you can go on our website at thefountain.earth. And when you go there, there's a button, I think it says initiatives. And when you push that button, Mother's Message will be there. It's a hard message to hear. But the mother is in a process of ascension, and she can't stop that, just like I couldn't stop a birthing child. She can't stop that any more than I could go out to the waves when a tidal wave is coming and put my hand up and say stop. It's what's here. It's what's in motion. And so on September the 15th, the mama sent word that they were going into high ceremony for 15 days. They asked these 8 staff holders in their own nations to hold ceremony and to receive messages to send to them, because they're going into the sacred caves in order to hear the mother's instruction, now that we're coming to the close of that first 2-year period that she gave us. And in that, she said, Mother Earth must come first. Her original people are right behind her. She's sending all she needs for this motion to happen with more ease. So if we fuel that resource of our original people and line up behind that, then we will realign ourselves with the impulse of Mother's heart. And I like to say, we are marching. This grandmother is marching. Stand up and let's all join in. When it comes back to that question of what can I do? Well, sit down and take care of cleansing yourself. Mm-hmm. Take the time to go into the healing that you need, because we all needed it. We all need it. Just being born in these times into a system that was already corrupting itself. That's what landed. And so we have different stories, but we all have tools for cleansing. And when your consciousness starts to wake, it will bring what you need to you. So keep your eyes open and listen carefully, because those things are coming to help heal you and wake you, so you can fall in love with yourself again. You can see that you're one of the bright lights that's walking the new dawn. And when you love yourself, then your love that you offer to others is a reciprocity for life itself.
Oh, these words, so beautiful. Thank you. As I I hear you sharing about your path and truly listening and receiving messages. I've actually talked to some of my elder teachers about this before, about messages that come through that seem either too big or too unbelievable, or like, why am I receiving this information? That's always, because I've had this happen to me, and I've heard other people share this. It's like, well, what is this for? Especially if it's big, global information. It's like, well, what can I What can I do with this? Yeah, like how do you walk with that? Just in prayer and trust that it's going to reveal?
Well, I'll just give an example because one of those big moments happened for me when my husband and I had been traveling, and we had already been past a sweat lodge on which we take care of and still do. We had caught Maitri breathwork, which is a healing, what they would call in Brazil a cura, a prayer circle for healing with the breath and with music and with herb seat. So the aromatherapy of sorts is in the room, and the mediums that are there. And many of us are mediums within this community, and they're there and embody that energy that comes to heal and collaborates with those that come, because everyone has their own council, their own circle of this kind of awareness with them. And so we would be doing that, and as we did that, then many of them started coming to us and saying, we want you to open a spiritual intentional community. And I didn't think I was old enough, gray enough, or wise enough for such a thing. So I went to 3 teachers. I called them no-nonsense teachers. I knew that they would just say it like it was. And I wanted that. And so my only criteria was that one would say, no, Jyoti, you're not ready. And then I'd be done. But all 3 of them said it was time. And I didn't know how to go about that. So I just stepped into that present moment, and she brought every day what we needed to do, both the practical side of it and the spiritual nature of it and instruction with it. So I would say first, it's always good to take a moment when I'm not sure about something, or I'm worried that my ego or my mind has played with me, and somehow I go to my elder, and or maybe more than one elder, like I did when I asked about forming the community. The old ones say that there's a story that stalks each and every one of us, and when our soul is ripe enough to awaken and hold its own numinosity, then the story jumps on you and swallows you. That's kind of what happened to me in my life. I think it's always good, we do everything in circle in our community. There's a song that I just heard that says, we live through circle because circle takes no side. And I think that's a truism for me, and that's nature law, that everything lives in circle. So if you've got a circle, then have those elders as part of your circle, whether it's a personal level or a collective level of some sort, so that you can go to that elder when you're not sure about an action you're taking. And because we had this basket that had 5 lines, medicine lines in it, when we would have things come up in our community we weren't sure about, we'd take it into ceremony, and the medicine would tell us, because the medicine, the intelligence of nature, would instruct us, and then the instruction would start to flow, and we'd just follow the instruction, you see. Because one of the things you learn quite quickly, maybe that's not true. One of the things you learn that becomes a strong point in one's life of centering is that when I open in this way and become an instrument in this way, I'm not doing it. Spirit is doing it. This story that swallowed me and has walked out my life in these 4 decades, that story showed up, and I get to be in its present and witness it. I get to be in its present, be an instrument for it, but I'm not doing it. And you have to be really clear about that. And if you see that little fella ego or mind start to pop up, if you're in your sacred witness, you will see those moments, because we're human and it happens. but you see it, and you don't blame and shame and judge yourself. No, we stepped out of that, right? We're not doing that story anymore. We're done. I just say, oh, there you are again. And I take a moment to look inside, because Kubler-Ross said that if something triggers me for more than, I think she said 10 seconds, then I have unfinished homework there. So that's a rule of thumb that we use. We also have 2 rules in our community that we call rules guides, and they've stayed with us over all these 4 decades. The first one is no withholding. So if you say or do something that triggers me, I need to go immediately right then, and when I come and sit down with you and say, when you said that, what did you mean? Because this is what it triggered in me. And all of a sudden we get to know each other differently without finger pointing, with respect. And then I get to wake up more. We get to wake up more. The second, because when someone, and they do, comes 9 years later, and all of a sudden they're trying to tell you what you did 9 years ago. All of us have different memories of things. So we're not going to be, that sets up a field that's not going to be with resolution. It's going to be problematic and divisive. And so that with no withholding has been something we stayed with. And the second one was service from the heart. Those are our 2 rules in our community that we've walked with all this time. And when we got caught in things, because we always look at everything as energy, everything is energy. Energy creates itself into a form called story, so we can see what the energy's doing. If we are awake enough and we're standing out, we're not caught in all of that anymore. We're looking at whole systems. Then we can see that story within the whole system. We can understand the energy and what it's wanting more. It may need to be transmuted or transformed or released. It may need to be integrated and celebrated. It's all about energy. When I'm caught in a story, then I'm personalizing something. And all my elders would say, the moment you personalize, you're lost in the story. You're no longer standing with that which creates story. So I think some of those are some of the things I would answer to you from your question.
And what's funny is I was going to ask a very specific question about living in community. I mean, so many people are wanting that and are talking about it. There's a group of us that are meeting and starting to develop, just at least have the conversation of like, what is this foundation? And you said, you're on the boat for the ride, for the long haul, and like sticking with it. And of course, over the years, I've heard about a lot of people starting these intentional communities, spiritual communities, and then there's a blow up or the leader, something happens and people leave. And I it's human ego, I guess. But, what is, besides having the principles that you just mentioned, is it about having one guiding principle for the community that keeps the glue together? Like, would you say that there's a specific, or is it just the path of prayer, or, what is it that keeps the community going?
Well, the intention that we realized when we came together was, we wondered if we as a village, could we all have the awakening process? Could we all open ourselves to that full authenticity we came here to do? Was our question. And like I said, we were very clear that we were drawing a line in the sand because most of us had gone through abusive things that were difficult and caused wounds and scars. And we drew the line in the circle. We're going to work on ourselves and clean this up because we did not want that abusive syndrome to go to our children. We were very committed about that. And we all embraced the different paths the elders brought us and the different ceremonial ways that they brought us, because that's where we would go when we had issues collectively in the community. We had witness circles, so that we would call it when you and I are getting caught by an energy, then, it's kind of like when you have a witness circle, then you can invite a couple of people that each of you feel safe with. The witness is not there to take sides or decide who's right or wrong. No, the witness is there. So should you forget, when you're presenting your story, you're saying, when this happens, this is what happens. I'm identifying the energy that comes up from me, from my seat in the circle. And so does the other person. And so when you share that way, then you can start to see the energy you're both holding that has come because it wants the light too. It wants to come out of the shadow. It wants to transform and transmute itself and lift itself higher. So that's the service work you're in. And so that way we can depersonalize the trigger it touched in us. And we used to say, we're all going to take a place to hold the shadow for the community at some point or another. So when that happens, can we be kind? Can we be kind to one another? Because waking up is messy. It's messy. And you're humans, and you're doing the best you can. And we're going down a road that's not been cut before. So we have to step out of that Western thought that decides and judges and compares and competes. And when we step back to mother law, to nature way of life, all things have value. We sit in circle and she said to us when we first started sitting in the circle, everyone here is a voice of an aspect of myself. So I get to listen to this much of myself express itself in the ways that I hold my work, in the teachings that come, in the actions and initiatives we grow together to go forward. That's how we learned. Yes, we had to walk through the fire more than once. We would call ourselves karma yogis because a karma yogi is working the karma. And when the karma came up the mountain to go in our ceremonies or hit our community in some way or another, we had to burn the karma, not throw it around anymore. We had to burn the karma. It's a place inside that when it's fully open, you're in service, and sometimes you're the shovel in that room with all the shit trying to find the donkey. But you have to have a lot of humility, and that work requires humility. Or the ego clicks on, the mind clicks on, posturing starts happening, and the vision occurs. And our path is traveling down with the current of unification. So if things start to divide and separate, then we've fallen off that current. We have to find our way back to that current of unification. So rather than either or, we would say and both. What's a choice that brings and both?
Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for sharing this. Such beautiful wisdom. So, because I don't want to keep you too long, but I would love to hear, I've been hearing about 2026 for many, many years, and this pivotal turning point. I mean, it aligns with, like you said, all the prophecies and the astrology as well. What's next for you and the work with the foundation during this pivotal time? Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, we're poised now, and we're in service to the Kagaba, restoring this golden body. So I'm always looking for resources, especially in these times. It's an interesting process to just know that the mother will bring what we need, and she'll bring those collaborating partners that get it, that really understand what a high spiritual act they're becoming involved with. And it is that. I'm humbled by it. We're in service to our original people globally. I'm a member of the Mother Earth delegation of United Original Nations, and the Fountain and Center for Sacred Studies, our community. We all really listen to their instruction. We follow that direction. Just like I mentioned how we work in Colombia. That's how we were trained up over all these years. Do we make mistakes at times? Absolutely, we do. And we want our mistakes to be our learning. We don't want to cover them up and feel bad about them and get caught in all of that old kind of way of doing. We just want to recognize, oops, that was a misstep, and excuse me, let me burn some cedar, let me do some things to correct that, and let me walk in a way that honors what I just stepped on, you know. So that's kind of the moment we're paused in, and right now, I would say the instruction she gave about holding the ultimate paradox, whew, it's strong right now. I mean, especially here in this Turtle Island, this United States, we're seeing the ending falling. We're gone off the cliff, you know, and people are making choice. Some of that evolution isn't personal. It can feel personal, but evolution isn't personal. It's just movement in motion, taking us to the next level of perception, the higher level of perception. And so right now, getting this instruction from our elders and walking that instruction out the best we can is all we can do. The message that they're bringing back is going to be another strong message. They do tell me that starting in 2026, we will be entering 7 years of a very strong moment. So, us grannies, we say, you know, they say, if your grandmother's heart's not on the ground, then everything's still in motion. And I want to tell you, the grannies I walk with, our hearts are definitely not on the ground, and we are marching. And we got our arms around everybody. We got our arms around everybody. Our prayers are constant in that way. Constant. It's important for these times that you find a spiritual practice. It can be as simple as getting a glass of water and going outside in the morning, just as the day is beginning, and taking that holy water, that water of life, and letting your heart give praise and gratitude for the day. And when you finish with that, then you pour it 4 times onto the earth so she drinks first, and then you take 4 drinks. And if you have family members or 4-legged furries with you, whatever there is there offering that morning prayer, then they share the water also. This is a practice that will change how your day unfolds. You can sit at an altar. If you can, open an altar in your house. It can be as simple as a candle with some picture or statue or whatever you may feel brings the sense of divinity into your home. You can pay attention to your walk, because things come up to your walk in that present moment. Some of them you're going to love. They're the aha moments, they're the hallelujah moments, and some of them are the shadow moments, the cleaning moments, the clearing, releasing moments. And right now we collectively need to embrace grief. We really need to embrace our grief. I was just at the Grace Cathedral this last weekend where Gary Meglin, and he helped to really craft this and bring all kinds of artists together, people of song, people of prayer, people of poetry, people of music. And we went in, and his partner that helped to curate this was Hope. And the two of them brought us through a grief process. It was about 2 hours, and we started with a prayer, and then it had music underneath it, and then that music took us to the next performer, and the next performer. We went through grief, for grief to turn into gratitude, for gratitude to turn into unity, for unity to turn into peace. And it was really amazing. So take a moment for gratitude, highest form of prayer. And some days you wonder, well, what could I be thankful for today? It's just really been a horrible, horrible day. When I was younger and would have some of those moments, I go sit with my children, and they would put their little hand on my face, and I'd melt. And that was one of those moments I had so much gratitude for. I go outside and sit with nature and still your mind and listen deeply so she can fill you to the brim and overflowing. And your gratitude will come right along with all of that. Yeah. So these are some of the things that I think can help us in our individual walk. And as you walk and you're letting the walk carry you, you've given up your need to negotiate it or navigate it or any of that control. And you really have come into a place of trust. And as you walk the path, that trust deepens itself and steadies you in the faith of your own authenticity. Because really, this is a moment when authenticity is pushing out of the mud, through the muddy waters, and shooting for the sun and the light of day. Yeah. And I want to just say one more thing to you. I know that you walk with medicine, and a lot of the people that are sitting with us today, that is an intelligence that found me, and it changed me. And it's coming out right now because of the time we're in. So the Mother is giving us tools. Please don't take this system that has swallowed everything up and has devastated life and the sacredness of life. Please take a moment to allow the intelligence of nature to open that intelligence in you, so that it's not about appropriation, so that it's not about what you can get. People start into that work, but they're still going in with that kind of old Western mindset, that colonized thinking way of, well, what will this give me? What if you just go and sit with the medicine because it called you? What if you go in with no agenda? What if you allow yourself to just be empty enough to see yourself? So you can make right relations there first. Because when you do, and you embrace yourself again and all the parts of yourself, the little ones, the mad ones, the angry ones, the brilliant ones, the rebels, all of those that live within us, we all have all these different parts of ourselves, different aspects of ourselves, but we must embrace them all in a friendly way. Then we become a very different human being. Because as Grandma Rita said, when we go through this ascension, evolutionary moment with our Mother Earth and are pulled fully into the heart, we will be, for the very first time, human beings. So we really don't know what that's about yet. We really don't. There is a mystery.
such beautiful wisdom. We'll have to bring you back on. You always have an open invitation to share anything on here at any time. Anything new or any new initiatives coming out, please let me know. And I'm going to share the link, to the fundraiser. And then I know you also have a membership kind of model, or I don't know what you would call it.
We're just starting that in patrons. Yeah. And it came out a request for really the people around the fountain and these Earth initiatives to cultivate more communities so we can have better exchange and hear the richness of what we're sitting with, circle again, becoming back. It's another circle.
Another circle.
So come and join us. And Beth, do keep in touch because, she's got me spinning like a top these days. I say I'm a granny dancing as fast as she can, and I still can't keep up. So reach out for me, please, because we do have a message she's about to bring us to the world, and I really want to be able for you to speak about that, maybe as one of the first ones to do so.
Yes.
If you want.
Please. Yes. At any time. Thank you so much. Such an honor to hear you. And, just knowing that there's this great wisdom and people doing such good work around the world. For those that are losing hope or feel helpless, this is it. We can all just plant our little seeds, keep doing the work, doing the prayers. Like you said, being right relationship, daily water prayer, wake up with the sun, it's so simple. Yeah. So thank you for these beautiful reminders.
And thank you, Beth. To you and all those that are out there listening, thank you. Because we need to have more transparent discussions like that with each other. I'm just one point in a circle. I'd love to hear more of your voices. So, no, I'm here. I'm always here that way.
Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you're feeling inspired, I'd appreciate it if you showed your love with a review. And check out my YouTube channel where you can find the video version of this podcast. You can also head to bethaweinstein.com to learn more about me and grab my free business growth trainings. Remember, you carry your own unique medicine, and your medicine is what we need for these times.